Hey, what's up guys? My name is Rory and welcome back to my shop. A couple of years ago, I built this dust hood for my miter saw station. It's got a shop vac underneath and it does a pretty good job right now of collecting dust. I installed it on drawer slides as well so I could cut longer pieces without them interfering with the storage cabinets on either side. I'm really happy with it right now, but I'd like to make a couple of updates. While I'm at it, I'm also going to upgrade these work surfaces here. These are made from two old hollow core doors that I painted black. They came out of a house we lived in like 10 years ago. They're really pretty flimsy and not sturdy enough for the work I want to do on them. Let's get into it. Past Rory must have been a pretty smart fellow because the current work surfaces are 24 inches deep and 48 inches wide. This means that I can make the new ones out of a perfect half sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. I cut the sheet in half and then nipped off the corners to make a smoother transition into the storage cabinets. I want the work surfaces to be thick and sturdy, so I cut several 2.5 inch strips of plywood to build up each piece. Instead of using a measuring tape, I just laid out the strips and marked each cut before taking them to the miter saw. I decided to make the work surfaces first so I could continue using the miter saw before putting it out of commission. I held each section in place with clamps and then added 2 more pieces in the middle for added support. Once everything was cut, I used a liberal amount of glue and brads to hold it all together. I don't really plan on doing anything too heavy duty on these, but like I said in my intro, the old ones were really flimsy and the black paint seems to be a magnet for grime and dust. I'm hoping that by making these a bit stronger and treating them regularly with paste wax, I'll be able to keep them somewhat nice looking and more structurally sound. With the work surfaces complete, I cut down several strips of poplar to act as edge banding. This will make the plywood edges look a lot nicer and match the mobile work scrap storage / tool bench / clamp rack cart I built a few months ago. I know that was a mouthful, but if you like this video, you might like that one too, so I'll link to it in the corner so you can check it out. I know poplar's not the hardest wood, but again, I'm not expecting too heavy duty use on these, and it looks really good. To fill the seams, I squeezed a little bit of glue into the void, and then before it dried, I ran over it with 120 grit sandpaper. This makes a great wood filler and is very effective at filling small gaps quickly. With the work surfaces done, it was time to demo. I started by removing the sliding dust hood and drawer slides so they could be reused later. The old work surfaces were just held in place with some screws and came apart very quickly. I'm also going to reuse the 2x4 supports that you can see on the storage cabinets, as well as the frame that holds up the miter saw. I drilled some pocket holes in the frame and the supports so I could fasten the work surface from the bottom. And here's a little tip: when you can't clamp the pocket hole jig onto your workpiece, you can hold it tight with a screw right through the hole in the middle. I used the frames to hold the surfaces up temporarily so I could get everything exactly where it needed to be before securing it all together. It was important to have enough clearance under the miter saw so I could properly hide the shop vac and give the space a cleaner look. Once everything was where it needed to be, I held it all together with screws. I also made sure everything was square and level as well so the drawer slides would work properly. You'll notice here that there isn't anything holding the work surfaces to the wall. I have a plan for this in future videos, so now would be a great time to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Past Rory must have been pretty foolish to think this gray stain would look good, so I tried sanding it off with my random orbital sander using 60 grit paper. That was taking way too long, so I switched to some paint and stain stripper and followed the directions to a T. After trying to scrape and scratch it off, it finally dawned on me I should have just used a belt sander from the beginning. This made quick work of it and brought the hood back to its original nice pine grainy glory. And it also covered my entire garage in dust. With the hood cleaned up, I moved on to making a face cover for it. I had used one in the past made out of cardboard, but it fell apart pretty quickly. Luckily, Past Rory is pretty sharp and decided to keep it, so it made a great template. I cut it out with the jigsaw and tested the fit every so often. This is 1/4 inch birch plywood, so it was easy to cut, file, and sand to get the exact shape I needed. With the fit dialed in, I needed a way to attach it, and for that I'm using magnets. I used a 3/8 inch Forstner bit, which was just slightly smaller than the magnets, but a quick rotation of the drill allowed me to make the holes slightly bigger. To line up the holes with the cover, I used a little bit of ticky tack and some washable marker to make a stamp. The marker bleeds onto the cover and shows me exactly where to drill the holes. Since the plywood is 1/4 inch, I had to be very careful here not to drill all the way through it. With all the holes drilled, I used some Starbond CA glue and activators to secure the magnets in place. I'll put a link in the description below, but if you want to receive 10% off your next Starbond purchase, just use RLL21 as your coupon code. I use superglue on nearly every project, and Starbond makes a handful of products that make woodworking and DIY so much easier. That first test with the cover and making sure the poles on my magnets were correct was equal parts nerve-wracking and satisfying. Luckily, I got it right on the first try. I used some squeeze clamps to act as temporary brackets to hold the hood in place while I fine-tuned the placement of the drawer slides. I put the saw back in its place and grabbed a level to make sure things lined up. I left the saw a little low on purpose so I could shim it up to the perfect height later. With everything in the right place, I marked the locations of the slides and removed them from the hood to make their install a lot easier. Again, using the level to make sure everything would work properly when complete. While you can't pick up on it in this video, it was about 95 degrees in my garage, and working in these tight spaces was getting pretty brutal. With the dust hood in and working, I installed the saw and used shims where needed to bring it up perfectly flush with the work surfaces. Snapping that cover on and off and knowing how much better this was going to be for dust collection was really exciting. Those magnets make such a satisfying clip when they connect. Installing the cover over the shop vac was very much the same, so I won't go into too much detail here. I drilled some holes, markered up some ticky tack, drilled some more holes, glued in some magnets, and just like that, the ugly shop vac was hidden forever. Until I need to change the filter, that is. With all the construction of this miter saw station done, I covered everything in a liberal amount of paste wax. Not only does this protect the wood surfaces, but it really makes the grain pop. Who says shop furniture can't be aesthetically pleasing? Be sure to subscribe so you can follow along as I make more videos about updating my shop, and if you watched until the end, let me know in the comments if you are for or against shop crocs. I think you all know where I stand on this issue.